Good afternoon. I'd like to capture today, just for posterity, a solving of a puzzle that I wrote maybe 2 weeks ago as a tribute for my father, John Barra. And I just want to acknowledge the extensive help that I received from two gentlemen that I very much appreciate, Jamie and Simon. Thank you both. And I just wanted to capture this for the long haul. So I wrote it, so I know all the answers. I'm going to kind of move through them somewhat quickly, but if anybody happens to be watching this and wants to play along, that's what the pause button is for. So here we go with five across. Old chap from New Jersey with honey crackers leaving Earth. Now, the definition here is going to be old chap, and this is an old-fashioned way of calling somebody a chap. And this clue comes from New Jersey with honey, going crackers. So it's going to be an anagram of New Jersey and honey, leaving Earth, but we're going to remove the E from that anagram. And believe it or not, that gets us Johnny. Six across. Grandpa's tastefully pinching elbows and such. This is a hidden word clue. And we're looking for a word that means elbows and such. And the answer here is hidden in between grandpa and tastefully. And you could see the word pastas. And grandpa's tastefully is pinching that word, pastas, or hiding it. Number 9, upon reflection, turn over answer if initially stuck. We're looking for something that means stuck, and it's 3 words, 2, 1, and 3 letters. We are going to reflect something, so that means it's going to go backwards. And we're actually going to make the word turn go backwards around answer. So turn is going to move over answer, which can be abbreviated to A. And then we have the letter I coming from if. The word if initially indicates that we want the first letter of if, and that is I. In a rut or stuck. Number 10A, parachuting from nice jet, free floating with Bee Gees at heart. And my father did not actually parachute from jets, but did jump out of helicopters in the Vietnam War. And it's probably unlikely at that point in time that Bee Gees was in his heart, but Bee Gees were often in his heart, henceforth after that. So number 10, we're looking for a word for parachuting, and it's going to come from nice jet, free floating. So we're going to anagram that because those letters are going to be free floating. And then we're going to also add Bee Gees at heart. So the heart of Bee Gees is G. So if we do nice jet with a G, we're going to find a word, ejecting, that means parachuting. Oops. Number 10, the best shirts. This is a double definition clue. And in my father's case, these shirts might have been casino shirts or Hawaiian shirts or a very famous purple shirt he has. But another word for the best is tops. And another word for shirts is tops. And there we go. 12, decline date saying no kiss. Hmm. For this clue, we're looking for an answer that means decline, and date can be D. We can abbreviate date to D. And then saying is expression. Another word for saying is expression, but we're going to take the X out of expression because kiss, just like in greeting cards when people write XOXO, kiss can be abbreviated as X. So if we write expression but take the S out, we get a word for decline or depression. Number 13A, semi-autobiographical clue. People, Italian Tony's upset. And upset is telling us to upset the letters of Italian Tony, rather, to find a word that means people. And in this case, believe it or not, Italian Tony, anagrams to nationality. Number 18, trumpet blast loudly disrupting dangerous overnight visitor. So another word for trumpet blast could be toot, and it's loudly disrupting dangerous overnight visitor. Another word for dangerous could be hairy, and that word hairy is being disrupted by an abbreviation for loud. And in musical notation, if you see an F, that is indicating to play loudly. So we put the F in between hairy, and we get a word for overnight visitor or tooth fairy. Like an octopus swarm. So an octopus has many arms. It has 8 arms, and a swarm is another word for army. So an octopus is army, and so is a swarm. So this is a type of double definition clue. Maybe a little silly. 22, quiet music accompanies starters of nuts, escargot, and lobster in shells. So here we're going to look for a word for shells, and that word is going to come from quiet or shh. Music, one type of music is rap, and then the starters or the first letters of nuts, escargot, and lobster gives us shrapnel or shells. 23 across. Rouse competition, no introduction needed. I'm sorry. Let me start that one over. 23 across. Rouse with composition, no introduction needed. Let me clear my throat. Yeah, it's important for me to read this clue properly, and that is browse with composition, no introduction needed. And another word for composition could be makeup. Your composition is your makeup. And if we take the introduction away, because it says no introduction is needed, we can see with comes before it, and with can be abbreviated to a W, and we get the word wake up or rouse. And very, very many times we were roused early in the morning before sunup to wake up for one of our great family vacations. Maybe change flat in New York and call it a day. I actually forget the answer. I'm going to come back to that one. Bistro server carries back course. And here we see another hidden word. And bistro server, that phrase is carrying another word, but it's carrying it backwards. So in that word is RES, resort. Aruba for one. Let's go to the downs. One down. Lure fish with special aim at sea. So the phrase at sea is often used to indicate an anagram. So if we take aim and mix up those letters, actually special aim, so that's an S in special, and aim, and we mix up those 4 letters, we're actually going to get ISMA. And a certain type of fish is called a char, like an Arctic char. Kind of trendy in upscale restaurants over the past decade or so. But anyway, let's go to number 2. This is a 2 and 4 are combined. Nation's unsteadiest time requiring reconstruction. And maybe this puzzle has a few more anagrams than I wanted, but I'm seeing that now. But here we have another anagram, and something is requiring reconstruction, and it is the phrase unsteadiest time or unsteadiest T. So if we take the word unsteadiest and T, which is an abbreviation, which is an abbreviation of time, we get, believe it or not, you could see it coming, United States. And Reconstruction was indeed a moment in the US history that was part of and that followed our unsteadiest time. Way more unsteady than people think nowadays is. And it's not even close. Number 3, Dying, and my father would have known this. Dying words from father principally are good. And this is a true story, in fact, this clue. And this answer is farewell. How do we get the answer? Well, the definition is dying words, and it comes from father, which can be abbreviated to F because it says father principally. And then R is actually right here in the clue, ARE. So F plus R plus a word for good or well. And there we see farewell. Peeled onion right following opening two segments of Julia Child, question mark. And peeled onion can give us the word onion peeled. So we take the edges off the word onion and we get NIO. And right is going to give us R. And this is following the opening two segments of the word Julia. And those opening two segments are JU, which is an example of a child sometimes. In my brother's case, he was the child because his name is John Barrett Jr. Number 7, upperclassmen raised profit supporting Senate's left side. So here we're looking for a word for upperclassmen. And then we're going to raise a word for profit. And that actually could be return on investment. This is a little tricky. So profit or ROI is raised in this case, and it's supporting Senate's left side, which is the left side of the word Senate. And we get senior or upperclassman. Number 8, coffee time. Answer, holding pit bull regularly at fault. Oh, that was just a really nice break. Okay, 8 down. Answer, holding pit bull regularly at fault. So I think we're looking for a word that means either answer or at fault. And pit bull regularly gets PTUL or IBL. And IBL is right here. IBL. And this is being held by answer or response. So if you take response, oops, and make it hold pit bull regularly, you get a word for at fault or responsible. Now, in my father's case, he was a quintessential version of the other form of this word responsible, not one who's responsible for something, but one who is responsible for all the good things. A totally responsible man, human being, good guy. Tot, mostly whiskey, eliciting grunts, 14 down. So let's see, we need mostly whiskey, and that's a word, rye. So most of rye is RY. Tot, which is a word used in the UK for a drink or for a small amount of a drink, is also an infant. So we get infant over mostly whiskey, RY, and we get a word for tot. Or I'm sorry, we get a word for grunts. Grunts in the army are also the infantry. And my father was one of those. And then some. 15 down. Phew. Troy and Henry returned puppy. So Troy could be abbreviated as T. This is, I believe, is in the NATO alphabet. Henry can be Hank. So we get thank. And then we get Um, puppy returned. So puppy can be dog. And if we return it or go backward, we get God. Thank God. And that's how I feel with the good fortune of my birth. Natives different after mass. Different after mass. So something is different or other, and mass can be abbreviated like in science, like it has a measurement, it could be abbreviated to M. And we get mother, a word for native, like mother tongue or native tongue. 17 across. This is another sort of double definition type clue. Measure a horse. I'm sorry, 17 down. Measure a horse. And a measure can be an amount. And a horse can also be a mount. 19 down. Cycling channel features. So here we're going to take a word for channel and make it cycle. So another word for channel, like the body of water, could be straight. But if we cycle it, we move the S to the end, from the beginning to the end. And straight becomes traits or features. I don't think there is an actual cycling channel, although there might be. Number 20, bristle with Henry, or in this case, bristle with Henri, the soccer player. Oddly silent after Ribéry's latest boring match. And I like the picture this paints. Uh, one would expect Henri, the team leader, to really be up in arms or at least have something to say, but Henri is oddly silent here. And we're going to look for a word that means a boring match. So a boring match could be like a blowout, could be a match that's not close. It's kind of putting you to sleep. It's a yawner. And how do we get yawner here? Well, bristle is another word for on, AWN. Henri oddly would be the oddly silent, I'm sorry, would be taking the odd letters in Henri and making them silent. So that leaves us with the even letters, ER. So we get on, ER. And this is after Ribéry's latest. So Ribéry's latest would be Y. So Y goes at the beginning. There's another clue for my father. Actually, they all have a story behind them, but he was a great yawner who would sort of turn his yawns into songs. And we have one clue left, 24. And yes, this is another good one because this is something else he earned. And the word here is going to be retire, but I'll hold off. So maybe change flat in New York. The reason New York is here is because that's to indicate that this is a word used in America, because TIRE is the American spelling. But this is a UK puzzle typically, and they spell it TYRE. So sometimes you want to indicate that you're making an American English clue. So that's why New York is here. So maybe change flat could be to retire, and to call it a day or to go to bed is another way to retire. And there we go. I got to the end, and there's something called annotated solutions. So if I reveal the theme, we see the tribute here, and then I'll scroll slowly just to show some notes. And each note has a little explanation from my own personal point of view of what the theme is. Over the past year or so, I've learned to get somewhat fluent in this type of cryptic language. I find it really enjoyable, sometimes relaxing, uh, stimulating. I don't know. I'm somebody who enjoys being alone, so kind of suits me. you're alone, but you're not alone when you're doing this because you're sort of having a mind meld. You're using the language on the page or on the screen as sort of like a go between you and somebody who's solving. You got to try to get onto the same wavelength. And sometimes it works, and when it does, it's nice. But it takes a long time to get used to the sort of ins and outs and the typical, expectations of these types of puzzles. I'm still a long way off from getting comfortable with it, but that's that. And I'm glad I did this. It was really fun to make. I listened to a lot of BGs while writing the clues. And if anybody's watching, mainly this would be me watching sometime in the future. Thanks for watching and nice job, Ant. Have a good one. Thank you.